Why would Gautam Adani, an Indian billionaire, invest over $1 billion in a port in Israel? At first glance, it seems like an unusual move. India and Israel are thousands of kilometers apart. Their economies operate in different regions, their trade routes follow different patterns, and their domestic priorities are very different. So why would the chairman of Adani Group decide to buy one of Israel's most important maritime gateways? To answer that question, we have to travel to the Mediterranean coast, to a city called Haifa. Overlooking the blue waters of the Mediterranean is Haifa Port, one of the most historic and strategically important ports in the region. For decades, this port has been a gateway connecting Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Ships carrying everything from cars to grain to electronics pass through its docks every day. It plays a major role in Israel's economy and handles a large share of the country's cargo. But in 2022, something significant happened. The Israeli government decided to privatize the port. Bidders from around the world showed interest. Controlling such a strategic location is not just a business opportunity. It is a long-term gateway into Mediterranean trade. After months of negotiations and competition, the winning bid came from a partnership between Adani Ports and Special Economic Zone and Israel's Gautam Group. The consortium offered about $1.18 billion. The structure of the deal gave Adani Ports a 70% stake, while Gautam Group held the remaining 30%. With that, the Indian conglomerate effectively became the majority owner and operator of Haifa Port. For Gautam Adani, this wasn't just another business expansion. It was a strategic step onto the global stage. Adani's company had already built one of the largest port networks in India. Through Adani Ports and Special Economic Zone, the group operates multiple major ports across India's coastline, handling a massive share of the country's maritime trade. But Haifa represented something different. It was Adani's entry into the Mediterranean, and the location is extremely significant. The city of Haifa sits along one of the world's most important maritime corridors. Cargo ships traveling between Europe and Asia frequently pass through the Mediterranean before heading toward the Suez Canal, one of the busiest trade routes on the planet. Being present in this region means access to global shipping flows that connect 3 continents, but there's another detail that makes the port even more sensitive. Not far from the commercial docks lies a major base of the Israeli Navy. That means the port is located next to a critical military facility. Because of that, any foreign involvement in the port's management is closely watched by governments around the world. And that's where geopolitics begins to enter the story. For years, China has been expanding its global infrastructure network through the Belt and Road Initiative. The strategy focuses heavily on ports, railways, and logistics corridors that strengthen China's trade routes across the world. China had already secured a presence in Israel's port sector when Shanghai International Port Group began operating a nearby container terminal. This development raised concerns in the United States. American naval ships frequently dock in Haifa, and U.S. officials worried that increasing Chinese involvement in Israeli port infrastructure could create potential security risks. So when the privatization of Haifa Port was announced, many analysts believed the bidding process could turn into a geopolitical contest. Instead, the winning bidder came from somewhere unexpected: India. For Israel, the partnership made sense. India and Israel have been strengthening their economic and strategic ties over the past decade. Cooperation spans areas such as technology, defense, agriculture, and infrastructure. For Adani, the deal opened the door to a completely new geography of trade. Owning a Mediterranean port meant the company could extend its logistics network far beyond South Asia. It positioned the group at a crossroads of global shipping routes that connect Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. But the timing of the acquisition also coincided with a much larger vision: a proposed mega-trade route known as the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor. The concept behind this corridor is to create a new supply chain connecting India with Europe through the Middle East. Goods would travel by sea to ports in the region, move across rail networks through countries in the Gulf, and then reach the Mediterranean before heading into European markets. In that potential route, Haifa port becomes a crucial gateway. If such a corridor fully develops, the port could become a central hub linking three major economic regions. That possibility turns Adani's investment into something far bigger than a simple port purchase. It becomes a long-term strategic bet on the future of global trade. Of course, investments of this scale never exist without debate. Some critics question the growing influence of large, private conglomerates over critical infrastructure. Others highlight the complicated politics of the Middle East, where economic projects can quickly become entangled with regional tensions. Ports are more than just docks and cranes. They are entry points to economies. They control the movement of goods, energy, and resources. Throughout history, the powers that controlled major ports often held enormous influence over trade itself, so when Gautam Adani acquired a controlling stake in Haifa port, it was not just a business headline, it was a signal that global trade networks are shifting, a signal that new players are stepping into strategic positions once dominated by traditional powers. And perhaps most importantly, a reminder that sometimes the biggest geopolitical moves don't happen through military actions or political speeches. Sometimes they happen quietly,